Hi, welcome to deepQuote, and today I will be talking about some books. It's Charlie. It's Charlie. It's Charlie. It's deepQuote. deepQuote. First book I will talk about is Happily Ever Afters. Yes, I have notes in my lap. I didn't feel like memorizing my script, so I'll put it behind so it doesn't look weird. So it is a romance book, of course. I think you might know that, based on what I titled this. So Happily Ever Afters. Tess is a romance writer, but also a high school student, and her family has just moved. And not only is Tess going to attend a new school, she's also miles away from her best friend, and the new school she's starting is like an art school, which she had to get accepted into, but her mom put in her application behind her back. So she's going to this school and she's going to start in the writing conservatory. There's one problem. In this class, you have to share your work, and she finds that out on the first day of school. But the only person she's shown her work to so far is her best friend. So now when she gets to class, she's stuck. I mean, writer's block's in here. But it's never happened to her before. And so her friend helps her come up with a plan to get unstuck. And this plan, as crazy it might sound, is to give her a real life romance novel. This, of course, means picking a love interest. So her obvious choice is Nico, the pretty boy in a writing conservatory. But there's also this kid, Sam, up from across the street, her neighbor, and he's very sweet and bakes her wonderful confections. In her quest to get her identity back, she ends up jeopardizing everything she loves, and in the end, she has to overcome her anxiety and realize how selfish she's been and try and rekindle some of the relationship. As a review, I personally really liked the book, and I appreciate that it showed a family with someone with disabilities, because Tess's brother has disabilities in the book. And this book was definitely one where you were screaming for an obvious love interest, but you know, it's a book, you can't change it. But it still had a pretty unexpected twist later in the book. And again, this book was really great. I wouldn't say the greatest. Would not say the greatest, but it was pretty good. And I'm really excited to get the sequel that will follow one of Tess's friends in the story, but right now I'm on hold for my library. That was Happily Ever Afters. See, look at me being all person-y. Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. See, I remember his name. So this book follows Jack in an overly complicated love story. I mean, there aren't any love triangles or anything, but the storyline is kind of complex, but wonderful, not too confusing at all. So Jack is on a college tour when he meets Kate, and they start dating, but on Jack's prom night, which he invited her to, Kate goes into crisis, and so not too long after that, she's gone. So Kate's death sends Jack back to when they first met. Now Jack has a new opportunity to try and save her life, which is what he does. Yeah, after the first few attempts, it's evident that he's in a time loop, because he can't have a few attempts and also get sent back in time over and over again to when you first met this girl, you know. Yeah, so in his quest to save Kate, he jeopardizes quite a few relationships for his love. Realized there are a lot of ways to mess up, because there are a lot of ways to mess up. And Jack still perseveres to save her and even brings in fancy doctors, experimental cures, and hospital security. After realizing that he can't just prioritize Kate over everyone else, he is able to escape the repetition. See, I didn't study my script, but it's all good. I also just randomly wrote this at midnight, so as a review, I thought this book was pretty good. I appreciated that it showed the impacts of his selfishness and in his obsession in finding a cure for Kate. And I also think it was vital to the story that Kate's death was a fixed point in time. So I thought that was great. And personally, I really like the storyline, and I would recommend that you check it out. It was a pretty good book, in my opinion. And then I just read this book. Literally finished it today. I'll be back when I find the title of that. I think it was Now That I Found You or something. I don't know. I'm putting a picture here. Who cares what it was? This one, I did not write a review for my trusty dusty notebook. I don't need it anymore anyways. So the book follows a girl named Evie Marie. And so Evie Marie is trying to become an actress, and she has acted in this thing. So she's involved with this guy named Paul Christopher, who is directing this series or whatever you want to call it. And so Evie is celebrating. She's with her best friend, and things happen. And next thing you know, Paul Christopher has thrown her off and hired her best friend in her place. So after all this happens, Evie goes to New York to be with her grandmother, who was also a movie star, but I think in the 70s. And so when she's there, there's this boy, Miles, who's living with her grandmother, like, part-time. And so one day, her grandmother just disappears. So over the next few days, weeks, I guess, Miles and Evie go around town looking for her grandmother. And so they get into a lot of interesting situations, you know, and eventually, yeah. But when everything seems like it's going great, there's a plot twist, and it's like, what? But by the end of the story, Evie learns that she kind of needs to not care as much about what other people think, and she needs to kind of be more comfortable in herself, but also, like, to learn how to forgive and build trust back. As a review, I really liked the book. I finished it today. I read a little more than half the book just in one day, so you can see it was pretty good. Really rooting for the characters. The end was, well, it was really the middle. It was just kind of a curveball, and it was like, whoa, but then it was good in the end, and I would recommend that book. I'm currently reading, I just started after that book, started another book by that author, so that was great. I just realized I do need my notebook, but I wanted to give some honorable mentions. So You Should See Me in a Crown, Blackout, and there was another book. It was a Revolution, another one about, like, self-love and also love, you know. That concludes this video of 3 books and some honorable mentions while I was reading off of a piece of paper. I'll see you when I see you. Peace. Next book, say the opposite of oil. Oh, the opposite of always. Why can't I say that? Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds.
So most of the words are